General practitioners are warning of a diabetes epidemic in the Territory. Doctors are worried about alarming rates of diabetes-related illness and amputations. They say people aren't taking the disease seriously enough.
I'm astounded at the number of people that are heading toward diabetes, whose tests show that they're on the cusp of having diabetes, and people that actually have it. Like once a week I would discover a person that is at real risk of having diabetes.
You drop your guard sometimes and I'll have a scone, a date scone and a piece of cream, and you're in trouble.
Alan Wright is riding for his life. It's only through a combination of exercise and diet that he's been able to manage his type 2 diabetes.
About 3 years ago, even though I increased my exercise regime, it became even more difficult to keep the blood sugars down, and if I went off a very stringent diet, they would shoot up very quickly.
So, what are we up to today, Hal?
Diabetes is a disease Australian doctors have had to become very good at managing.
So, how you been?
Yeah, pretty good.
That's good.
Around 1 million Australians have diabetes, and 275 new cases are diagnosed every day. 90% of all cases are type 2 diabetes.
How's your tummy been with the injections?
Yeah, pretty good.
Most of the increase is in the type 2 diabetes, and most of that increase, but certainly not all of it, is due to the whole population gaining weight and the number of people that are overweight in our society.
The long-term consequences are quite profound, blindness, foot amputation, things like that. I mean, very, very profound outcomes if you don't manage it.
Type 2 diabetes is often described as a lifestyle disease linked to weight gain, high blood pressure and high cholesterol. It affects the way the body is able to process glucose.
We used to call it maturity onset diabetes. It was diabetes that you might get when you were 60 or 65.
What's got professionals worried is the dramatic change in the profile of people presenting with diabetes. The onset of type 2 diabetes is now happening much earlier, particularly in indigenous populations. Medical professionals say the consequences of teenagers turning up with type 2 diabetes is not just horrific for the individual, but for the health system and economy as a whole.
When you're 15 or 20 or 25, which is common now for Aboriginal people to get diabetes, that means you're going to be 35, 40 when you're getting some of the terrible complications. These should be the most productive years of life.
It is a more serious problem for Indigenous populations in Australia and Indigenous people elsewhere in the world. We think it is because those people ate very, very healthy foods before white men came and provided foods that are less healthy.
50 years ago, diabetes was virtually unknown in Indigenous communities. But as traditional lifestyles and diets have changed, diabetes rates have risen. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are now 3 times more likely to develop the disease and 19 times more likely to die from diabetes-related kidney problems than non-Indigenous Australians.
And this is when people are just falling like flies, really, from early onset heart disease, early onset kidney failure. All of these things are a real problem, and they're associated very strongly with early onset diabetes.
If a Caucasian person keeps their body mass index under 24, they are less likely to get diabetes. The same reading for an Indigenous person would be 22. So we know an Indigenous person has to keep quite a lot thinner than a white person does to not develop diabetes.
Indigenous people aren't the only group to be overrepresented. Diabetes rates in Australia's poorest people are almost double those found amongst Australia's wealthiest.
Heavily processed foods, rich in fat, sugar and salt, have become much cheaper, and healthy foods that we are encouraging people to eat, fresh fruits and vegetables, lean meat and fish, have become much more expensive. So for poor people anywhere, it's very hard, if not impossible, to afford a healthy diet.
Chris Taylor was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at just 23 years of age. He's having to reconsider his career after half his leg was amputated.
After I get out of hospital, I'm going to learn to read and write and all the right things, and then move on to a different career from truck driving.
So usual treatment today, Chris.
Chris Taylor has been using the hyperbaric chamber at Royal Darwin Hospital to improve the circulation in his legs. He was admitted 7 months ago after a splinter in his foot got infected.
A diabetic patient can have a little splinter or, just something so minimal, and in a couple of days it could just be a massive big ulcer there and they can end up losing their feet.
Hi, Roy. How are you today?
Roy Manaway is also a type 2 diabetic. He's been coming to the foot clinic at Royal Darwin Hospital for years.
OK, Roy, we're just going to measure the wound and take some photographs.
Mr Manaway's been struggling to manage his diabetes on his own after his wife died earlier this year.
I've been on the operating table a few times, but thankfully my leg's still there.
It's very important to have early diagnosis. It's very important to have good medical treatment, and not just to say, well, medical treatment is enough. It's very important to have a healthy diet.
Alan Wright is staying on the straight and narrow. There's no cure for diabetes, but he's avoiding the negative impacts for as long as he can and urging others to do the same.
I'd say to any young person, eat sensibly and exercise. That's it.
If you have to have insulin or tablets with diabetes, take it regularly and do the right thing and eat properly, and you'll be fine.